What's going on, everyone? So, I've talked about, on several occasions, Lakers trading into this upcoming draft. Obviously, they have the 55th pick. Maybe they could even buy a second-round pick. That's a real possibility. Maybe you could go and get even the Brooklyn Nets pick, right? Maybe you're working something out to where you're going to go and trade for Nick Claxton, and maybe you could get the 27th and the 36th pick in the process as well, because the Brooklyn Nets just have an abundance of picks. And are they really going to draft 5 guys in this upcoming draft? Probably not, right? Because they would have to waive guys. They'd have to do all kinds of stuff in order to make that work and happen. So more likely than not, they're probably going to want to consolidate some of those picks, which maybe the Lakers could pull something off, right? Maybe the Lakers could trade, the 31st pick and end up getting, the 27th and 36th pick or something like that, because they're just like, hey, we get a first later on down the road. Who knows where the Lakers are at that point, right? You never know, right? There's several teams, multiple teams that have multiple picks in this draft. I mean, even a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, how many guys are they going to draft in this year's draft? So we'll see how this all plays out, but I've talked about even maybe converting Austin Reeves, seeing where his kind of trade value is. Could you maybe get a higher pick? Could you maybe move into the top 10? You got a team like the Brooklyn Nets that have the 8th pick. Could you maybe do something like that? But also, what about a Dalton Knecht? Now, I know a lot of Laker fans do not want to trade Dalton Knecht. I know a lot of Laker fans think Dalton Knecht is going to be the next superstar. And look, all those things could be true. Who knows? Lakers already traded Dalton Knecht once, and chances are they're probably going to trade him again, unless he just takes some crazy strides defensively. And even then, the Lakers might trade him before we actually get to see if he's done that. So, just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter what we want. It matters what the Lakers want to do. And so, yes, you could look to maybe add a Dalton Knecht as a first round pick to maybe go trade for a guy. Or do you look to maybe convert Dalton Knecht into some of these picks, right? Now, again, this draft is looked at as there's guys that were looked at early on as just higher picks, Nolan Traore is a great example, right? He was looked at as a top 3 to 5 pick in this draft. I mean, going this time last year, there were talks about him maybe even going number 1 or number 2, right? So you got a guy like him who now has kind of fallen to the wayside. And I'm just using him as an example for guys that have done that. You look at Ace Bailey. Supposedly his stock is just dropping, right? So could you maybe find that team, right, that is man, we really would like a guy in Dalton Knecht? Because, look, Dalton Knecht fell. But he fell because of his age, right? He was a guy that was projected to be a top 5 pick in last year's draft. I mean, he was as high as 4 on many draft boards, right? And so can you find a team that really values Dalton Knecht, or maybe even really needs a guy like Dalton Knecht? And they're all these guys that are here, maybe you could go and turn Dalton Knecht into multiple pieces. Again, a team like the Brooklyn Nets. Could you maybe get the 19th and 36th pick, or the 19th and the 27th pick, and be like, hey, here's the 17th pick in last year's draft. You need to consolidate picks, right? You really like this guy. He's already proven as a guy that can light it up, right? Where all these guys are going to be gambles. You still keep your 26th and 36th pick plus your 8th pick. Just give us the 19th and 27th pick. And now you get 2 guys in this draft, plus you have the 55th pick still, plus you still have your first, or you could even, if you were to pull something like that off, right, now you have 2 picks that you can trade and add to a package with, your 2031 pick that you can now go make a move, right? Maybe you could even work out a 3-team deal to where those picks are going elsewhere, and you're kind of, cashing in on a guy like a Dalton Knecht to pull off a trade that you might not have been able to pull off otherwise, right? Maybe, a team like Utah, maybe don't necessarily want Dalton Knecht as bad as hey, get us 2 picks in this year's draft plus, your 2031, remove protections. And it's maybe now you could go get that guy in a Walker Kessler that you wouldn't have been able to get as it currently stands, right? No pun intended. So again, I'd like to see the Lakers, again, just be creative, right? It doesn't hurt to kind of explore various things and kind of gauge and see what is Dalton Knecht's value, right? A team like Charlotte, they really wanted Dalton Knecht. they valued Dalton Knecht. They thought he would be, a better piece than Mark Williams because they were willing to trade Mark Williams to acquire him, right? So they were at least willing to pony up a legit, what many look like a franchise center that does have some questions, does have some health concerns, does have some issues, but a guy that, if can stay healthy, could end up being maybe even one of the top centers in the league, right? He has skill. He's already a 20-10 guy, without a Luka and on a team like Charlotte. Imagine what he'd be like with the Lakers where he has Luka, he has LeBron, he has Austin Reeves and these guys, right? There's potential where he, maybe even takes up another level. And then even the defensive side of things, right? Like, it's one thing when you're playing on a team where you're getting blown out by 20 or 30 every night. It's another thing when you're playing on a team that's competing every night and trying to win an NBA championship and build good habits, and guys are playing defense, right? I mean, Lakers had the number one defense with Jackson Hayes as your center, right? So again, like, don't underestimate the value of going and getting a quality guy. But again, you need to find that team that would value Dalton Knecht or is looking to, again, consolidate guys. Right, where, again, you look at a team like the Brooklyn Nets, using them as an example. They have 4 picks in the first round. It'd be kind of hard to draft all 4 of those guys plus the 36th pick. So again, if you could they might look at it and go, well, let's just get a guy like Dalton Knecht, right? He's a guy that already shown that he has that potential and upside. He definitely needs a little work, but any of these guys we pick here, not only are they going to probably need work too, but they're also going to be gambles. At least we know Dalton Knecht can play in the NBA and has a very, important skill set in today's NBA. I mean, you can make an argument there's nobody as good shooting the basketball in this draft as Dalton Knecht is. Because again, he's already proven it on an NBA level. He was already arguably the best shooter in college last year. And then, comes in or I guess 2 years ago, and then comes in the NBA and immediately shows that he can shoot at an elite level in the NBA, right? So again, he had his roller coaster, but he's a rookie. He's going to have those moments. So, would a team like Brooklyn, again, I'm just kind of using them as an example because they're a team that has an abundance of picks, but would a team like Brooklyn see the value in a Dalton Knecht and go like, hey, we'd rather that than, maybe it's the 26th, 27th, and 36th pick. Right? Maybe it's like, hey, instead of that, we're not going to give you the 8th and 19th, but we'll give you the 26th, 27th. You can have those 2, and then we'll also give you the 36th pick. So now the Lakers have, 2 picks in the first still, plus, a 36th. So now maybe they're drafting with the 26th or 27th, and then trading the other one plus their 2031 pick to go get a guy. And then, now they're drafting 2 guys in the second round that they really like, right? Maybe they're even solving, their center position in that regard. There's a couple centers late in the first round that could make some sense. And even in the second round that could make some sense. That, especially when you're slotted alongside Luka, you got to remember, like, if you can just draft a guy alone that just can be and understands, like, hey, just hit your spots and be ready for the ball at all times, Luka's going to make any of those guys. Like, if they have the athleticism and capability, right? Any guy that you get that can just run the floor and be a lob threat is probably going to be a double-digit a game guy just because Luka's going to make him that, right? Luka's going to be looking for him because he's always looking for that outlet. Always. Right? So there's always that potential. Even when he's doing his little step backs and, crossovers, that, step back 3, if that guy is wide open at the basket, he's throwing that up to go get it to him. Right? So any guy that you saw it in that position could potentially be that. But obviously, you want to find a guy that can, be your franchise guy, not just a guy that's like just there to solely be a lob threat, right? Because you could do that with Koloko or Jamison or somebody like that, or stick with Jackson Hayes, right? Ideally, you want to find that longevity guy. But point is that there is that potential of like, hey, can you turn a Dalton Knecht into multiple assets, multiple players, assuming the Lakers are high on some of these guys, right? Like, can you get like a Carter Bryant? Can you get some of these guys that are in the mid round that are looked at as guys that could have a potential immediate impact, but also still have that upside and potential? You got to remember, Lakers have a lot of needs. Obviously, they need to address the center position. But not only do they need to address the center position, they need to address the center position plus, the wing depth, bench depth, shooting, perimeter defense, athleticism at the guard position. Like, they have a lot of needs beyond like just go get a center. And Lakers are very limited on their assets. So how do you turn your limited assets into, all the pieces that you need? You have to get creative, and you're gonna have to take some risks, and you have to take some chances. Right? You go get, like I said, a legit 3-and-D young wing with the 19th pick, and then go get a potential center that, even if he's your second or third guy, with the, let's call it the 27th pick, that solves two of your needs right there. Right? Even over the course of an 82-game season, go sign a Clint Capella, a Gary Harris, and DeAnthony Melton, and you might be in contention. You might have that balance of youth and veteran leadership and all the things that you want, and and then you still have your 8-man rotation come playoff time, but you have 12 guys during the regular season. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So if you enjoy these types of videos, truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.